Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. Saturday's co-feature at beautiful Del Mar is the local prep for the prestigious Pacific Classic. It is the Grade 2 San Diego Handicap, and all of our stakes previews are presented by DRF Bets. And there's a really intriguing new promotion for DRF Bets members. It's the Weekend Warrior Bonus Series. Earn up to a $180 bonus for the Travers in the Pacific Classic. And the way to do it, DRF Bets members must bet $25 on one horse to win in race 1 at Saratoga and or Del Mar to qualify, of course, on the weekends, Saturday or Sunday. Win or lose, the player will receive a $10 bonus for each race in which they participate. Learn more, all the details at drf.com/bets. Let's take a look at the field for the San Diego. And Matt, we expect the complexion of this race to change quite a bit. John Sadler has entered 3 horses, including the big horse, the defending champion in this race, and morning line favorite, the number 7, Accelerate. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some defections.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, it makes it's a tough race anyways, because even if there aren't defections, Accelerate is just way the horse to beat. But if there are defections, all of a sudden the complexion of the pace situation may change a little bit. You brought up all the Sadler horses. Sharp Samurai could end up going for a turf stake over the weekend as well and defecting from here. It's not a given that both of the Bafferts will run in the spot. So this race could significantly change by post time on Saturday.
Let's begin with Accelerate, who shocked the world and shocked the big horse Arrogate last year in winning the San Diego Handicap, and after that he kind of went off form slightly. And racing's a funny game, isn't it? Towards the latter end of 2017, I was trying to convince people on the blog that, Accelerate's a really underappreciated horse that might turn out to be more than useful. And a confluence of events has occurred. Justified is hurt. West Coast hasn't been seen in a while, and Accelerate's now the big dog in the division based on his super performances in the Big Cap and the Gold Cup. He's got great tactical speed. This is his track. He's the horse to beat by a long way.
The real question for him for the majority of his career was how far did he want to go? And he finally got that sort of 10 furlong monkey off his back this year when he went out there and he won the Big Cap, and then he just followed that up most recently with the Gold Cup out at Santa Anita. I have to be honest, to me, this is a prime example of a horse that when you allow them to mature and give them time, unfortunately, we don't get to see this very often, but once you see them get to their 5-year-old campaign, I think you're seeing the best version of Accelerate that there is. And I have no reason to think that he won't run well here. He's 3 for 5 at Del Mar. Perhaps the distance is a little bit on the short side, but he's never had a problem with it before, so there's no reason for me to believe that this is going to be an issue. The only question for me with a horse like this is very clearly a means to an end to get to the Pacific Classic. If he's not 100%, does he still win? I happen to think so.
Number 2 is Dr. Door. Bob Baffert not fooling around, wheeling Dr. Door back in only 2 weeks after a surprisingly dull performance in the Grade 2 Suburban at Belmont. I couldn't find any excuse for Dr. Door. I thought he sat a good trip tracking the pace and was just empty when the real running started. If you want to say he didn't handle that Belmont sandy track, fine. Now you're left with 4 big efforts in Southern California, and he's going to be forwardly placed on this inside post.
Yeah, there's a couple things going against Dr. Door, in my opinion. The fact that, one, he was just so terrible in the Suburban. Now, maybe it was the ship, maybe it was Belmont Park, whatever else it may have been. Even if you think he gets back to his Gold Cup, he got absolutely waxed by Accelerate, and I have no reason to believe that he can turn the tables on him.
Let's talk about the number 1, Catalina Cruiser. Undefeated from 2 starts, never been past 6 furlongs, owned and trained by the Accelerate connections. It's questionable whether he runs in this race. They have high hopes for this horse, and understandably so. He's been super impressive, 107 Beyer last time out, but this would only be start number 3 against some really salty competition. If they do run here, I think it's a big thumbs up.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. To me, he's the horse I'm most interested in seeing, whether he runs Saturday or they choose to run him in a different spot over the weekend or going forward. What he's done in 2 lifetime starts, he gives off the impression that he's a legitimate racehorse. And I don't mean that he's just, some listed stakes type. He could easily be graded stakes caliber. I'm going to be very interested to see what his game ends up being, because keep in mind, he's a 4-year-old that's run twice. So clearly some things have gone a little bit haywire with him getting to the races, but what he did in that most recent start at 6 furlongs, and you see some of the horses that he defeated and what they've come back to do, there's a part of me that wonders, even if he runs on Saturday and doesn't win, is this sort of a built-in turn back for a one-turn race. But at the same time, when you look the way that he's built and you look at his pedigree, two-turn shouldn't be an issue. I am fascinated by this horse.
Certainly right about that pedigree by Belmont Stakes winner Union Rags. He's a half to Eagle, who was a long-winded graded stakes winner on the dirt. Catalina Cruiser, maybe not the greatest gate horse in the world, but it's nice to see that in both starts he's shown a versatile running style, off the pace in the debut, then off the layoff on the lead. Sharp Samurai is a pretty good turf horse. They're going to give him an opportunity again on dirt, and he has won on dirt with an 84 Beyer speed figure. That was his maiden against only $75,000 maiden claimers, but his race after that, we can give him an excuse. He was in against Battle of Midway.
Yeah, I was going to say, he turned out to be a pretty decent horse, and who knows, maybe we'll see him here in the next few weeks. Sharp Samurai, should they go in this spot, I think it's an interesting opportunity to find out if this is what he can do, if he can handle the dirt track. I guess worst case scenario, if he can't handle the dirt, you can always go back to the turf. To me, when you get this far along in a horse's career and he's as quality as he is on the turf, I'd really rather not sort of mess around with it, but at the same time, he's a gelding, so it's not like you're worried about anything from a stud standpoint. If you want to take a shot, take a shot. I still personally would rather see him on grass.
If the race stays intact, and that's doubtful, we would expect a fast pace up front. Time Form US does believe that the #1 Catalina Cruiser could get to the front. I would think that Dr. Door, the 2, would be a little bit more forwardly placed as well. I would think that Accelerate, the 7, with that nice cruising speed, would probably be sitting just off. The great thing about the Timeform US pace projector is after scratches, it updates on the Timeform US website. Let's talk a little bit about the 5, Curlin Rules, who is up close to the pace. This is a tough spot in which to make a return off, what is it, an 8-month layoff or so. I was disappointed by his last start as a 4-year-old, the native diver. He went to the front that day over a track that favored speed types, and he just backed up badly. Something must have happened. He returns as a gelding. Sadler has already indicated this might be a prep for the Long Acres Mile.
Yeah, and you know what, I have to be honest, I feel like a race like the Long Acres Mile would probably be his ceiling. It feels like when they've tested him, he can't quite hang. I wonder if he is just sort of that high-level claiming or allowance type. But a race like the Long Acres Mile, from a distance standpoint and from a timing standpoint, you give him a race here, get ready for that up at Emerald. Makes sense.
8, El Huerfano up close on the pace projector. He would show some stretch-out speed in his 3rd start of the form cycle, just overmatched last time out in the San Carlos. I wonder if that's just about the best he can do right now. A 93 Beyer speed figure. He's yet to crack 100, and you'd think in a race with Accelerate and a couple of these others like Dr. Door, he'd have to run the fastest by far.
Yeah, he's another horse that it feels like he is just that high-level allowance horse, and when they test him against the big boys, he can't cut the mustard.
Harlan Punch, the 10, has speed. I'm a little surprised that he is 6th on this pace projector, breaking from the outside post with an aggressive rider in Martin Pedroza. I wouldn't be surprised if he's aggressively ridden. We have a formulator fact for his trainer, David Jacobson. Over the past 5 years, older last-out winners making their 2nd start after a layoff line in dirt routes. 36% winners, a $3.15 ROI. But boy, Harlan Punch had the best of it last time out at Monmouth. He only faced 3 other horses. One of them, Imperative, was coming off a 27-year layoff, and Harlan Punch was able to go 48-4 to the half, uncontested in a mile and a 16th race. Tougher horses, way tougher pace scenario here.
Yeah, I do wonder if a little bit of it is he's so forwardly placed when he's out here on the East Coast. We always talk about a West Coast speed is different than East Coast speed. That outside draw as well, I almost feel like you want to use that to your advantage. No sense in getting hooked in a duel, but I agree with you. Get him into the run a little bit and sit just off. You could work out a very nice trip out there.
Let's talk about Dabster, the #9. This is a horse that's run well around 2 turns in the past, and if you want to make the argument that the San Carlos was just a sprint prep off a long layoff and that Baffert's going to have this one ready to roll, I wouldn't argue with you. My issue, though, is that I thought he was simply lousy in the San Carlos. I mean, he was off a fast pace, and he couldn't get past El Huerfano late despite running a little bit. If you think that race was just a prep, and he's run well at Del Mar in the past, this horse might be somewhat of a live long shot.
I liked him in the San Carlos, and he was terrible. He just never picked his feet up at any point. You see the pedigree, 2 turns shouldn't be an issue. You made mention he has won going 2 turns in the past. There's just a part of me that says, okay, even if he moves forward 5-6 points, he's going to be in a high 90. I can't imagine that being fast enough to win.
I think Richard Baltus made a great claim with the 4-235. He took this horse for a mere $25,000, and he must have saw something. Certainly the pedigree. Stay Thirsty out of a Giant's Causeway mare. This horse had never stretched out in distance. Baltus immediately stretched this horse around 2 turns. He's won 3 of 4, including a 104 Beyer performance last time out. But I have serious reservations about whether he can run that race against these horses.
I tend to agree with you, but you brought up a good point. It's fascinating to see. There are a number of instances we've seen over the past handful of years where when all of a sudden one thing has changed, whether it's a stretch out in distance or it's a turn back or it's a surface switch, all of a sudden a horse turns into a totally different animal. That's kind of the way I feel about 235, but I agree with you. It's one thing to earn a 104 and non-winners of 2 other than. It's another thing to do it against graded stakes caliber company.
Prince of Arabia clunked up for second behind Dr. Door in the Californian 2 starts back and never could make an impact in the Gold Cup at Santa Anita. That being said, if this pace is electric up front, Prince of Arabia is the one that'll be passing some exhausted horses late. Maybe he's a big priced hope for the Superfecta.
Yeah, he's the kind of horse that has outrun his odds in the past, and would it be a stunner if he did it again? No, like you say, his game is come from the back, make one run.
We kick off the 50-cent pick 4 at Del Mar on Saturday with the Grade 2 San Diego Handicap. We'll throw up our top selections. You're not fooling around. Accelerate is not only the boss in the West Coast Handicap division, he might be the best older horse in the country right now due to West Coast's inactivity, Gun Runner's retirement, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, again, it feels like this is nothing more than a means to an end to get to the Pacific Classic. So if he can beat a field like this, and in theory, he's probably not really cranked up and ready to go, it just shows how much better he is than everyone else. I will say, the horse I am most interested in, should he go here, is Catalina Cruiser. I think there's a scenario where if you're not familiar with the name now, you need to get familiar with it, because I think he could be a major horse going forward.
I agree. I made him my top selection, although it is questionable whether he'll run. There's a 2X in the book at Del Mar on Sunday at a mile. That would be just the natural progression for this horse, and down the road you could run him in graded stakes races. If he runs here, he gets 10 pounds from his stablemate Accelerate. He draws an inside post. He's bred to go 2 turns. I don't think he's 8-1 if he does run in this spot, however. But he would be my pick, and if he scratches, I'm with you. I think Accelerate's the one to beat. 1742 for me in the Grade 2 San Diego Handicap. Want to throw up that offer one more time for DRF Bets members. You can earn up to a $180 bonus for the Travers and Pacific Classic with the Weekend Warrior Bonus Series. You must bet $25 on one horse to win in race 1 at Saratoga and or Del Mar each Saturday and Sunday to qualify. Approximate post time for the Grade 2 San Diego Handicap and the red hot Accelerate, 5 o'clock Pacific on Saturday. Best of luck.